I'm Aurora, and my journey with yoga began when this guy trusted 17-year-old me with the keys to this studio so I could clean in exchange for classes. For the past 13 years, I've dedicated my career to giving back that exact gift I was given, and now I'm here to share it with you. Welcome to Work From Home Yoga. I would like us to start out lying down on our backs, hugging the knees in toward the chest. You can roll them around in circles. Lifting the low back off the mat just a tad as the knees pull in closer toward the body. Keeping the shoulders and the upper back relaxed, and reverse directions. Starting off slow, working with the breath. We'll keep the right knee hugged in, extend the left leg long on the mat, and let this knee open up and out to the side. We'll stay grounded through that left leg and hip by keeping the hand on top of the hip bone. And pause here for 3 breaths, creating some space in that right inner thigh, the hip joint. Allowing the knee to soften toward the floor. And start to roll that knee around in circles. So out to the side, crossing over the body. Noticing any creaking, any popping, clicking. As long as you're not in pain, it's normal. And reverse. Okay, from here, we'll keep the knee hugged in, plant the left foot on the mat, and then float that right foot up to the ceiling. We're going to take half happy baby. So you can reach your hand to the outer edge of that foot, the ankle. If you want, you can use both hands and grab a hold of the calf. Any option is fine. But we're squeezing the knee in close toward the elbow. And taking a couple more breaths as we allow that knee to soften toward the floor. I did a bunch of squats a couple days ago and I still feel it in that inner thigh area. So if you're extra tight here, this is a really good way to stretch that part of the body out. That's slightly different than a wide-legged forward fold or a low lunge. Or half splits. Okay, cross the ankle over the knee, take figure 4, and then reach your hands through that triangle you created. Grab a hold of the top of that knee as you hug that leg in close toward the body, and then rock side to side. Stay here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release that right leg long on the mat. Keep the left knee hugged in. Open up the knee out toward the side. Right hand stays on the hip. Keep it grounded. 3 breaths. Notice that soft release at the end of each exhale. And start to roll the knee around in circles. Keep the breath steady. Struggle Bodie. It's okay. It's just my knee on the wall. And then reverse directions. Notice if this side feels a little easier or more challenging. Plant the right foot. Take half happy baby on this side. Find your variation that works. Knee draws toward the floor. Sole of the foot is pressing up toward the ceiling. You can use that hand wherever it is to add some pressure to draw the knee closer toward the floor. Take one more breath. And cross ankle over knee. Figure four. Hold here or reach through. And rock side to side. Stay here for 5. Keep pressing the knee away for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release. Both legs long on the mat. Take your arms up and overhead. Interlace the hands. Press the palms back behind you. Puff up the chest. Point the toes. And then float the arms up toward the ceiling. Float the feet off the ground, bringing your legs into 90-degree angles. We're going to come into our dead bug pose / sequence. So it's opposite arm to leg. So we'll start off with the right leg, reaches forward, left arm reaches back, draw back into center, and then switch. So it's a very simple movement, but it requires intentionality and that we're pressing the low back down, extending out through the leg, reaching through the heel, and trying to sync breath to movement while syncing the movement with the arm and the leg. Sometimes when we do this kind of work, one limb will move faster than the other. So maybe we have the tendency to kind of drag the arm back closer to the body before the leg gets there. See if you can completely sync the movement. So as each limb is moving, the other one comes back and meets in center at the exact same time. Start to feel this in the core. Go for 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 1. Go ahead and set the heels down on the mat. Interlace your hands behind your head. Lift the back of the head off the mat. Keep the elbows out wide. Float the right heel off the ground. Extend the leg out. Straighten it. Tap the heel on the floor. Bend at the knee. Draw the heel back into center. So we lift. Opposite leg. Extend. Tap the heel. Lift. Bend. Set the foot back down. So try this. Each side, keeping the elbows out wide. When we feel this in the core, the upper body wants to compensate by kind of squeezing everything in and lifting up to make it easier. So if you keep the elbows out wide, that's going to make it more challenging. Okay, we'll go for 3, 2, and then 1. Keep the chest up, keep the heels planted and the toes up. Plant the palms on the mat by your sides. Lift up a little more, look toward your knees. Float the right foot off the ground, float the left foot. Hold here, press down through the low back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Set the heels down. Whew. Relax the upper back down on the mat. Take a breather. Inhale. Exhale. Again, lift up, lift the chest, float the heels, and now extend your legs out a little bit. So not too much, just a tad. Keep pressing down through the low back. Hold for 5. Keep broadening across the chest. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Set the heels down, lower the upper body. Breathe in. Breathe out. Last one. Lift the chest, float the heels, extend the legs a little bit more, tap the heels on the ground, lift the chest up more. Option, float your arms, palms face one another, hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower all the way down, hug the right knee in, cross it over the body, take a twist, reach out through that right arm. 2 breaths, inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. Back to center and switch. Cross and reach. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. Back to center, lift up, hug the knees in toward the chest. Either roll over onto one side or rock yourself up to a seat. Come forward onto hands and knees, and we'll take 5 rounds of cat-cow. So tabletop pose, stacking shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. We'll inhale to arch. Exhale to round. Inhale, lift. Exhale, round. Breath to movement, your pace. Take one more. Good, meet in a neutral spine with a flat back. We're gonna float the right knee up and off the ground, extending through the heel as if you're trying to stamp the sole of the foot up toward the ceiling. Keep the core engaged. Draw the knee out to the side, forward and down. So big circles, trying to keep the hips as level as possible without dumping your weight into the left side body. So weights even in both hands. Working on some hip mobility here. Trying to keep the knee as far away from the floor as possible. We'll go for 3, 2, and then 1. Reverse direction. So out, back, up, forward, down. Out, back, up, little kick, forward, down. So when you do that kick in the back, you'll feel that in the right glute, isolating deep in the glute. Stay like this for 3, 2, and 1. Set the knee down, press back, baby child's pose, full breath in. Full breath out. Shift forward and repeat. I'll rotate so that way I have more space at the wall and you can see the side. Lift the knee up, stamp sole of the foot up toward the ceiling, knee out to the side, forward and down. This takes a lot of concentration not to fully collapse into the shoulders, the arms, the low back. This is probably one of the hardest poses for me personally, because my body, whenever I try to do it, it loves to cheat. And it's like, I know, I can help out, says the low back. And I'm like, no, this is for the glutes. And the glutes are like, no, it's fine. They can help. So I have a really hard time trying to figure out
how to really isolate. I know exactly what I need to do, but my body's like, no, we're just gonna avoid this. Okay, 3, 2, and then 1, reverse. Out, back, up, down, forward. Out, back, up, and down. Bodhi's being pretty good today. He's taking a little nap. He's only being really good because I threw all of his toys in the other room. So he can't chew on them. Okay, 3. I know this is hard. 2, 1. Okay, set the knee down, press back. Ooh, baby child's pose. And then shift forward. Come to lie down on your side as if you're watching TV, using your hand and your elbow as a little headrest, facing, doesn't matter which side of the mat. I'm gonna stack the hips, stack the knees, and start to open and close the knees while keeping the ankles together with a bend at the knees. So now we should really feel this pinpointed deep in the glute. Why are we doing this? Because we need to. We tend to avoid the stuff that is kind of frustrating or not as exciting as all of the funky moves that we normally do. But this is that maintenance piece that the body will always need, especially as we continue to advance in our practice. We can definitely get to a point of overdoing things. And so if we continue to train and get the body used to a lot of this mobility work, it becomes less frustrating in the long run. Okay, from here, we're going to float the ankle, tap the knees together, and then tap the ankles together. So tap knees, tap ankles. We'll go for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then knees together, extend that leg back behind you, press out through the heel. Knees together, straight and extend. Reach as far back as you can. Keep feeling this deep in the glute. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Whew. Okay, rise up and switch. This is what my teacher calls eating your bitters. You just gotta put in the work, but it's worth it. Okay, knees together, start to open, close. Little clamshell movement. All of this stuff really does prepare us for a lot of the work that we do in those higher intensity yoga classes with the legs, the quads, the hips, all of that stuff. Start to notice maybe if this side is easier or more challenging, or maybe you're like me and they're both equally challenging and frustrating. We'll go 4, 3, 2, and then 1. Knees together, ankles together. Close in, open up. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 1. Knees together, straighten out that leg, extend through the heel, reach. Together, extend, reach. For 5, 4, 3, don't worry, we'll do hip stretches later. 2, and 1. Oh my gosh. Ugh, those are brutal. Okay, lift up. Let's take a child's pose, shall we? We deserve a little break. So bring your knees as wide as you can. Settle the hips back and down toward the heels. And pause here. You can either stay on your forearms or drop your forehead toward the mat. Straighten out the arms. Reconnect with the breath. Start to allow the low back to soften toward the heels. Let the heart, the chest relax closer down toward the mat. 5 more breaths. All right, slowly lift up. We'll shift forward, draw the knees together, tuck the toes, lift the hips. Take a downward facing dog, about 3 breaths here. Pedaling out through the feet. From down dog, let's step the right foot outside the right hand. So remember, if it doesn't get there in one swoop, no problem. Just take your hand to the ankle, little hop, step that foot forward. And then we're gonna roll onto the outer edge of this back foot and start to drop the hip toward the floor. So you can kind of relax your weight into that left arm and shoulder and take the hand to the outer edge of the knee and press the knee away from the body to get more deeply into the hip. So this is basically like our, our lizard lunge variation where we're rolling onto the outer edge of the foot. I just cued it differently in that first we roll onto the outer edge of that back foot so that way we can drop that hip closer toward the floor. Okay, hold here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 1. Plant both hands, keep the knee out to the side, still staying on the outer edge of that foot if that feels accessible. Start to bend into the elbows, dip the chest toward the floor. We're taking a mini push up here and then pressing all the way back up. Straighten the arms. Do that 4 more times. Bend into the elbows, dip the chest down. Work the arm strength, stretch the hip, lift back up. As we're doing this, that left quad gets a deeper stretch too, as the chest gets closer. And take 1 more. And back up. Walk the foot in between the hands. And then shift the hips all the way back toward that heel. So you're sitting back down on that heel, keeping the right leg straight and then folding forward over that leg. Three breaths. lift up, rebend, step back, downward facing dog. Pedal out to the feet. And step that left foot forward outside the left hand. Roll onto the outer edge of that back foot. Start to drop the hip toward the floor. Open up through the left hip. Oh, there we go again. Snap, crackle, pop. And then press the knee out to the side. Doesn't have to look like anything special. You know how funky the hips are. Do what works for your body. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Both hands down. Dip the chest, bend into the elbows, and slowly lift back up. You should feel this in your triceps too. Dip down, and back up. Slow and controlled. 3 more. Gazes slightly forward. Shoulders draw back. 1 more. And walk the foot in between the hands, straighten that legs. Sit all the way back down and fold. 3 breaths. Start to rebend. Tuck the back toes, lift that knee, spin to the right, wide-legged forward fold. And we'll bring hands to the outer edges of the feet. 5 full breaths here. Relaxing the crown of the head down to the floor. You can shake the head side to side. If you're feeling really tight in the neck, you can interlace the hands at the back of the neck, draw the elbows together, use that as some traction to create space. Just make sure you're super careful here. Add in shifting side to side if that feels good. And we'll lift up, rotate, face the front of the mat, step forward, standing forward fold, transitioning into a squat. So walk your feet out about as wide as the mat, heels in, toes out, drop down. If a squat isn't comfortable, you can always sit on a block, which helps, or a book or a couple of books. We're gonna hold our squat for 5 breaths. So you can bring hands to the heart, press the knees out with the elbows, lift the chest, and breathe from your center. Relaxing the low belly, the pelvic floor, the tailbone down toward the mat. Take 1 more breath here. And then slowly lean forward, plant the hands, lift the hips up, heel toe the feet together, standing forward fold. Reach for opposite elbows for ragdoll, sway from side to side. Keep a bend in the knees. Take one more breath. Drop the hands down to the floor. Step back to plank pose. And from plank, pedal up through the feet. The shoulders stacked on top of the wrists. We'll work with the arms a little bit here now. So from plank pose, find stillness. We'll drop down to the knees, untuck the toes, and lower your seat all the way back down to your heels for child's pose. Keep the gaze forward because we're going to pull ourselves forward onto the forms and snake through into a baby cobra, lifting up and then pressing back to downward facing dog. So just like this, same movement. It's inhale, forward plank. Exhale, drop down to the knees, untuck the toes, press back. Inhale, pull yourself forward, lift the chest up, baby cobra. Exhale, press back, down dog. Do 3 more of these at your own pace, practicing breath to movement, control with your movement. Keep the elbows squeezed in toward the body as you lift up. Soft back bends. Make sure your back bends feel accessible. Continuing to warm up the spine. Once you're done, we'll meet back in our downward facing dog. Walk the hands all the way back to the feet. Bend into the knees and roll up to standing. Good. We'll meet in the center of the mat and shift into our swinging. So facing the side of the mat, you can bring your arms out wide, shifting weight left to right. Floating the heels off the ground as you rotate and allowing that origin of movement to come from the hips, the lower half of the body, the arms follow, versus trying to swing your arms or do anything with them. They're just a natural byproduct of the movement of the legs. Continue to swing and keep breathing from here, from your center. Just double check this on time. Okay, we're good. Okay. So we will pause our swinging and transition into our first balance pose, which will hopefully be a little bit easier on the legs after all that hip work that we did. So we're standing on the right foot, hugging the left knee in toward the chest, pointing the toes. And then it's left arm above the right. So you're creating little C shapes with your hands as if they're claws, as if you're pouring a teacup. And the teacups are stacked right on top of one another. There's just space between them. Arms are out, elbows are out wide, soft bend in the standing leg. Lots of stuff going on here. That right quad and hip is working really hard. The left hip flexor is working. The core is working. The arms are working. This is Jedi training at its finest. And while we're here, the hardest part, at least for me, breathing from here. So even as you notice, oh my gosh, I'm wobbling, or I need a wall for support, first of all, doesn't matter, go use a wall if you need to. But as you're noticing these intensifying sensations, can you practice relaxing into it? The same stuff we do in mindfulness and meditation. You notice the thought, it's intense. You notice the story, the emotion, it's intense. Okay, that's difficult to deal with. Can I be here? Can I be with the breath? Can I accept the fact that this is intense instead of trying to change it? We spend so much energy, we spend so much energy trying to change the way we feel, to change our experience, instead of accepting where we are within it and how we're experiencing it. And if we put all of that energy instead into just first acknowledging and accepting it, that's when things change, which is the irony. So allow this to be hard, allow it to be frustrating, allow your ankle to be on fire, allow yourself to fall over and out of it. Allow yourself to not like the pose. Pose doesn't care. It's here to teach us how to work with that hard stuff that shows up. Stay here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 1. Release. Shake it out. Both feet on the ground. Hands at the low belly. Close the eyes. Notice the difference between the right and the left side. Feel that grounding, that length in space and relaxation and softening on the right side. And then switch. Float right knee up, toes in, right arm above the left, C shape, teacup, arms out. Bend into your standing leg, broaden here. Try not to grip the mat with your toes. Breathe from here. It's amazing how often we seek novelty, movement, challenge, excitement, and the second we have it here, we're like, nah, don't want it, I want stillness. But the second we're in stillness, don't want it, I need movement, I need to do something, I need to create something, I need to fix something. So noticing that pattern of the mind to go back and forth and back and forth. The second we are in something, we crave something else. The second we have that, we crave what we had. It's never satisfied. And this is what a lot of the philosophies of yoga and mindfulness are here to help us understand, that habit pattern of the mind. And that is not unique to us. It is kind of the nature of being human, to feel that way and to think that way. But if we can become more aware of that pattern, then we are less controlled by it. We can work with it, and we can use that data to our advantage to then start to make decisions for ourselves that are healthy and productive, even when they don't always feel like fun, right? Like, I don't always want to do yoga. I don't always want to work out. I know I need to. So how can we get past that mindset shift of, okay, I'm not wanting this because there's an aversion toward it. So instead of pushing it away, how can I actually go towards it? Because a lot of times the things that we avoid is the stuff that we need, which sucks. And it's frustrating, but most of the times that's the case. Okay, stay here. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release. Shake it out. Feet together, hands on the low belly. Close the eyes. Notice the left side. Okay, open the eyes and swing. This swinging movement is the equivalent of, in my mind, it's like the equivalent of vinyasa in yoga. It's like what swinging is in Qigong. You do it in between the shapes to kind of clear out that fiery heat that we build up and then reset for the next pose. Each time we come back to the swinging, we come back to the breath and try to become as grounded as possible. So we bring that space and clarity into the next bit of practice. Okay, let's take triangle pose. So you can step one leg out, doesn't matter which one. Point the toes, reach out, and then drop down. So target area of the stretch is the side body and that inner thigh. Hold here for 5 breaths. Okay, let's turn this into a revolve triangle. So we're gonna drop that top hand down, keep the feet exactly where they are, and then sweep that opposite arm up. So now you should be feeling this more in that outer hip and IT band. 5 breaths here. Okay, drop that hand down, reverse, rise back up, and then switch sides. So first reaching forward, then dropping down as you bump that hip back. 5 breaths. And drop that hand down, opposite arm up, reverse, revolve triangle. And drop that hand down, pivot both hands in the middle between the feet, coming back into your wide-legged forward fold. This time, if you want to interlace your hands behind your low back, or bring your hands to your elbows, you can do that. Get a little upper arm, shoulder action going on here. 3 breaths. And release the grip, lift the chest, gonna hop the feet in, rotate to face the front of the mat, dropping down to the knees, tuck the toes, and press your seat back toward your heels. So you can stay on the hands. If you want, you can drop down to the forearms, maybe move the pinky toes out of the way. stretching the feet here. 5 breaths. And lift up, release. You can tap the tops of the feet on the mat. And sit down. Extend that left leg out long. Hug the right foot in. And then reach up and overhead, stretching the right side body. Try to rotate your chest open more toward the side of the room. This deepens the stretch. Sends it further down into the low back and the hip. And come up and switch sides. Go back, up and over. Bodhi, is this my signal to give you belly rubs? Yeah. One more breath. Rise up. Draw the feet together, knees out wide. Bring your hands to the outer edges of the feet. Lift the chest. Bend at the elbows and fold. If you feel comfortable, you can walk the hands forward. And slowly lift up. Cross the legs, coming to a comfortable seat. Sit up tall. If you want, you can use a wall for support. And plant your palms on your knees. Draw the shoulders back and down. Dropping the gaze toward the floor, eyes open or closed. Come back to this place of breathing from your center. Breathing from this space that we've created that is grounded, expansive, relaxed. This space where we surrender to whatever shows up physically within the body, mentally, in the mind. This is our meditation and mindfulness practice of being present with the willingness to be still, even in the midst of things changing in our internal environment and our external environment. And by cultivating this sense of the witness to what goes on versus a participant getting caught up in what is going on, we can more smoothly navigate what feels like the rise and fall, the ebb and flow of emotions and thoughts and sensations.
all of that stuff that we experience inside, the way we show up to that is reflected in our everyday lives. So this practice is a mirror to show us where we are, how we're doing, and how we can relax and sit back and show up from this place that is relaxed but engaged, relaxed and present. Relaxed and at peace. Very gently guide your hands to your heart, thumbs at your chest. Take a moment to thank yourself for putting in the work. Know that you can take this feeling of spaciousness with you throughout the rest of your day. It is yours to keep because you created it. Together, take a full breath in. Big exhale. Namaste.